Nation commentary, where we are deciphering the 2018 Northern Ontario Leaders Debate. We're going to be watching this, and I will be providing commentary. We're going to pick up where we left off in part one. And by the way, this footage is brought to you by CTV, just in case anybody wants to try and get me for plagiarism.
I've been into these mining companies. They're frustrated. The hydro rates are too high. They can't keep their doors open. We've lost jobs. It's going to be the same. Gas prices up here will be over $2 an hour. Between their carbon tax, the Green Energy Act, the cap and trade, they're gouging the people of the North. Gouging.
That's right. Hydro rates are high. Gas prices are expensive. Everything is expensive. And one of the biggest reasons that is because of the Green Energy Act. And the Liberals put the Green Energy Act in the law, but the only other party which supported the Green Energy Act in the legislature was the NDP. Andrea Horwath. That's why I say Andrea Horwath and the NDP are nothing but puppets to the Liberals. The NDP used to be the party of the workers, but now it's just a puppet party of the Liberals.
Thank you. Ms. Wynne?
Yes. So, I know that Mayor Vinay, I don't think Phil is here, and I don't think he's well, but I remember a very important conversation that I had with Phil Vinay in his office in Red Lake, and we were talking about the Endangered Species Act, Al, and he was showing me the maps. We were going through the maps, and it's true that there's an ongoing discussion between the environmentalist community and the people on the ground who are good stewards and understand the North and understand the migration patterns. And what we want to do is to find the right balance. And so the reason that we have extended the exemption for 2 years is that we have had those conversations with you. We recognize that balance is important. And one of the reasons Jane and I got in a canoe when I was first in this office and did a canoe trip along the Attawapscut River was that when we talk about important projects and we talk about the Ring of Fire, I want to know exactly what the land is like. I want to know where those structures are going to be built. So it is a constant discussion on how do we find the balance. But I have taken your advice.
You have not taken anybody's advice. What you have done is you have cost many Northern Ontarians their jobs, their mining jobs. You have closed down several mines. You have taken away several mining jobs, and they've gone to other countries. They've gone to the United States. They've gone to China. I mean, a lot of jobs, especially mining jobs, have gone to the United States. And the only person who wins in that situation is Donald Trump. And that's why I've made videos saying that if you vote for Kathleen Wynne or Andrea Horwath, you're voting for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump will get more Ontario jobs and just more Ontario wealth, because Kathleen Wynne or Andrea Horwath will just chase more and more jobs out of Ontario with their reckless left-wing ideology, Green Energy Act, carbon tax, all that sort of stuff just makes Ontario a very terrible place to own a business, and business people know that.
Listen to you. I have sat in many of your offices, and you have given me advice that has led directly.
I bet you've taken a lot of their money too.
And on this one, that was the direct line, that we recognize that there is a discussion that needs to happen. We have extended the exemption, and we will continue to work with you, because I am determined to get it right for the environment and for your industry.
Thank you.
Well, what you've done is actually made the environment even more polluted, because, as I've said many times, a carbon tax will do nothing but chase jobs out of Ontario, which have very stringent environmental regulations, and chase them to China or America. or Venezuela, countries that don't have as tough environmental laws as we do, and they'll just spew even more carbon into the atmosphere. That's what you've done with the coal industry. You're doing that with other mines. That's what you've done. Your left-wing policies are actually making the environment even worse. How ironic is that? Let's see what the puppet has to say. Andrew Horvath.
Thanks very much, Al. I mean, I've been through many of your communities over the last number of years, and if there's one thing I hear over and over again is frustration around the lack of connection from the decisions that are being made down south at Queen's Park versus the realities that you face in your northern communities. There has been a disconnect there for a very long time. And whether it's the Endangered Species Act, where there's been frustration around current data and whether current data is what's being utilized to make these kinds of decisions, or whether it's a government that absolutely ignored the voices of northern municipalities when it came to the Far North Act. I mean, that's one big example of where the decision-making happened down south, and notwithstanding your voices, and notwithstanding the voices of our First Nations leadership, notwithstanding the voices of the business community, the government went ahead with an act that we now have seen. It was exactly what we were worried it was going to be, that it doesn't provide the kind of framework that we need in Northern Ontario to make sure that everybody understands what their obligations are, responsibilities are, to ensure that the mining projects particularly are able to be undertaken. We had cliffs walk away because there is no certainty. We continue to not have investment that we should have. The Ring of Fire, I don't know how many times there were announcements and ribbon cuttings, and of course here we are 10 years later with that opportunity still missing. I have a number of MPPs that proudly...
And whose fault is that, though? I don't think any business on the planet would want to invest in Ontario knowing that they would have to pay, especially fossil fuel or mining jobs, knowing that they would have to pay large sums of money to a failed carbon tax. You'll have the Green Energy Act, which will actually work to go against their business because the Green Energy Act focuses more on green energy as opposed to fossil fuels. And most people might think that's a good thing, but actually it does nothing but raise our hydro rates and kills a lot of Northern Ontario jobs. So you're complaining about no investment. Well, it's partly your fault because you supported the Green Energy Act and you've supported most of Kathleen Wynne's policies in the legislature, which have destroyed, among other things, but mainly destroyed the mining sector.
Present Northern ridings. Our caucus table is always talking about Northern issues and how Southern decisions need to be viewed through a Northern lens. That's why we have a commitment to a Northern committee when we form government on June 7th.
You know, one of the things that really ticks me off with the NDP, she's talking about a Northern committee. This is what they like to do always. When there's a problem, they like to grow the bureaucracy even more. They'll create another committee. They'll create another ministry. They'll create another this or that or blah, blah, blah. They will create more bureaucracy. We don't need more bureaucracy. We need action. We don't need more talking. We don't need more suits in Queen's Park talking about the situation while they drink their coffee and their tea and probably their alcohol too. We need action. We have the resources in the government. We just have to bloody use them.
Thank you.
And they're clapping for me.
3 minutes of open debate.
Andrew, I want to ask you, which NDP are we going to see? Are we going to see the NDP that pretends they protect the working folks? I'm the only guy that protects the frontline union workers, non-union workers. Or are we going to see the NDP that has the extremist environmental activists, political activists, like Ramsey Hart, that celebrates when mines close? He spent his whole career trying to shut down mines. Who does that?
I'd like to answer.
targets
Hey.
people.
I can access.
Doug Ford deserves a thug life for that. Boom shaka. You see, we need to expose Andrew Horvath because there are a lot of I mean, Kathleen Wynne, Jezebel, she's dead woman walking. But there are a lot of chumps out there who are falling for Andrew Horvath, thinking she's real change. She is nothing but the same Kathleen Wynne, except Kathleen Wynne is brunette and Andrew Horvath is blonde. Kathleen Wynne is in Toronto and Andrew Horvath is in Hamilton. It's the same thing, if not worse. So kudos to my man Doug for pointing that out.
I can actually
Mines.
answer your question if you're
Well,
asking me a question.
You
I'm
know,
happy
I'm
to
asking
answer
you a
it.
question, Andrea.
Mr.
Which one is it?
Mr. Ramsey is in fact a food bank executive director right
That's
now.
good.
But look,
That's
the-
good.
the fact
And you know what he needs to do? He needs to stop trying to bash the mining sector and trying to close down the mining sector and throw people out of work, which caused them to go to the food bank in the first place. Maybe that's why he's doing it, because he relies on people going to the food bank because he's a food bank executive.
matter is the entire mining industry has been working for the last decade or more to make sure that sustainable mining is what's happening in our communities. Right? That's where the
She
industry
sounds
is.
like
I
a
don't know where you've been, Doug,
co-liberal
but that
leader.
is exactly where the industry is, and rightfully so that your communities can benefit both economically, but not be left with an environmental mess. at
Doesn't
the
she
end of
sound like she's speaking for the government? I mean, she should be attacking the government's record on mines, but she's talking about how we've done this and that. She sounds like the co-leader. She's a puppet of Kathleen Wynne. I'm telling ya.
day. And so, you know what I'm going to be? I'm going to be the NDP that is going to be honest and transparent about my plan. It was launched 2 weeks before this election even started. It is fully costed. It has a fiscal plan that goes with it. Mr. Ford, where's
Oh
your-
yeah, she wants to tax the rich. That's what these socialists like to do, tax the rich. There aren't that many rich people in Ontario left. You've taxed most of them away. You've taxed most of their wealth away. There's maybe 20 billionaire families. So you're going to rely on 20 families to run this entire province? No, you can't do that. And she knows she can't do that. She's going to raise taxes on everybody.
How are people
I'll
going to know
tell you
who
about-
you're
I
going to
will
be
tell you about
if
my
you
plan,
don't
Andrea.
provide a plan
Let me tell you
that's
about my
transparent,
plan.
that's open,
Unlike yours,
that's
Andrea.
honest.
You're driving the hydro cost up. You're driving the gas
Your
prices
plan
up
and
here
hydro is the
with
same
a
as
carbon
Ms.
tax. I'll tell you one
Your
thing,
plan on hydro
my
is the
friends.
same.
I'm not going to have a bunch of extremists downtown Toronto deciding what the
Boom
people of the north
shakalaka
are gonna do.
Ford.
I'm not going to have an extremist that celebrates. Spent his whole career on shutting down mines.
Damn right.
trying to increase
No, Mr.
taxes
Ford,
to
what you're
people
going to
in
do is
mines
drive a
till they
bulldozer
won't.
through the ring of
They-
fire
you know
and
something?
pave over the
He
green belt.
fought.
That's what you're going to
Ramsey
do.
Hart
Talk
Ramsey
about
Hart
extremism.
fought constantly to shut down the Ring of Fire.
So let's
Damn.
who
Talk
are
about
you?
bulldozer.
Are you the one that pretends you're up north, or are you the one that hangs out with the extremist activists down at the city? Because what's going to happen is Andrea's going to take off from here, go back to her hardcore, inner core NDPers down at
Who
the
are
city
all
of
puppets
Toronto
to the Liberals.
and
Can I
listen
just-
to the activists.
Doug, can I just say for 1 second? Can I just say for 1 second again on the issue of balance? 7 mines have opened the last number of years. There is great innovation going on in mining in this province. We are a center of excellence for mining, and we're
And a
gonna
lot of
continue
mines
to do
have
that.
closed.
And you know what? There are over 4,000 jobs that have been created in the north month over month just this month. So there
You
you go.
destroyed the
Well,
coal
how about the
sector.
57,000
All those jobs.
people that lost their jobs in the logging industry under your watch?
Exactly.
57,000 hardworking
Well, let's
families
have-
don't have a paycheck because
Thank
of
you. Next
you.
question.
And they're all in the food bank with the extremist who wants to get rid of all the mines. Okay, and that's where we will leave off right now, a little early. I guess that's the end of the video from the CTV website, but we will end there and we will go to part 3 momentarily. This is the Arana Nation.